Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem, Wakakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, preaching this word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim, scattered through the four corners of the globe, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim, scattered through the four corners of the globe, that be like unto the speckled bird, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And until next, Salakia. And I say shalom to y'all out there. Salakia with a slip of the tongue. So this is a sit-down lesson, another one that I was about to bring out. And this was the day before yesterday, like a day ago, of this news article from the Jerusalem Post. And this was published December the 27th, 2022 by Reuters. And it reads, ethnic fighting kills 56 in South Sudan, officials say. And it says a ethnic clash between youths from the Yuma and Mirali communities erupted once again. Clashes have killed 56 people during 4 days of fighting in South Sudan's eastern Jordan state after a youth from the Urum community attacked another ethnic group. A local official said on Tuesday, with the new Urum making up most of the casualties. It says the territories of South Sudan, which has gained independence from Sudan in 2011, and have been plagued by blood, fuel, and clashes over cattle and land for decades. The ethnic clash between the Nuro and Murli armed youth began attacking the Muro community in December 24th, which is about 4 days ago, in the Jumrock County in Knox County, if I pronounced that right, says Abraham Kaleem, a government official in the Greater Pilbara administrative area. And it says the government is managing to help the community, but the fighting is still ongoing, the killing told Reuters by telephone. And he said 51 of those killed were newer attackers, with only 5 newer defenders killed. It says the UN last week, the United Nations peacekeeping missions, the UNMISS, says armed youth were being mobilized ahead of a potential raid against the Muro. The UNMISS said it was monitoring the escalations of tensions and violence and had intensified patrols in around affected areas. And this is the book of Luke, chapter 21. Matter of fact, I'm gonna start at verse 9, then I'm gonna drop on down to 25. And then I'm gonna bring out that Matthew 24, verse 6 through verse 7 as well too. And this is the book of Luke, chapter 21, verse 9. But when ye shall hear of wars and commotions, be ye not terrified, for these things must come to pass, but the end is not by and by. This is the book of Luke, chapter 21, verse 25. And it reads, and there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth the distress of nations, and with perplexity the seas and raving one, right? Because we seeing these nations around the world are in distress with these protestings. You got rival clashes, this community going against that other community, across border conflict, uprises and uproars in the people in the world, and that's what we're seeing. People going against their leaders. They sign these laws. They call it, sometimes they call it unrighteous decree laws, or sometimes the citizens does not prefer those laws, so they go against their leaders. They should stand, do protests about it, cross-border conflicts. So that's why the scripture says in Luke 21 and 25, and upon the earth the disgrace of nations for perplexity, right? And that's what we're seeing. The disgrace of nations, of they are in the uproar of going against one another, going against their local officials and the ones that are in higher power. So that's why these nations are in the distress of the uproars and the protests and the cross-border conflicts and clashes between the two different nations and two different kingdoms. That's what we're increasingly seeing around the world. Even though it's comical, it's basic common sense of these things, you know, always happen, but you're starting to see it increase more and more. And this is the book of Matthew, chapter 24. Matter of fact, I'm gonna bring out that second address since I brought out this news article. Second address 15 verse 16. For there should be seditioning man. I'm gonna go to verse 15. Second address 15 to verse 15. For the sword and their destruction draw near, and one people should stand up and fight against another, right? And that's what we are seeing of that news article that I just brought out in the South Sudan incident. That's what we are seeing. One people should go against another. In this particular, you have different communities going against one another. As I brought out this news article right here. Ethnic fighting kills 56 in South Sudan, and that's what you're seeing. One people should go against another. In that particular, you having another community going against another. Second address 15 verse 15. I'm gonna bring it out again for edification's sake. For the sword and their destruction draw nigh, and one people should stand up and fight against one another with swords in their hands. Right, because it became the sword, which is the modern day weapon, and that's what we're seeing. It says, I'm gonna go down to the next verse, second address 15 verse 16, and it reads, for there shall be sedition among men invading one another. They should not regard their kings nor their princes, and the course of their actions should stand in their power, right? And citizens in these countries around the world, globally, they are standing in the power of their leaders, and they're opposing the certain laws that they write, or certain things of adjustments that they do in these countries, and the citizens oppose to certain things that their political leaders and figures do as well too, and the citizens do protests about it, and they be in uproar about certain things that they're the one that's in power, their leaders, and that's why you're seeing they should never regard their kings nor their princes. And they should stand in their power with these uprisings and, protests and stuff like that, for a prime example. And now, bring out the last scripture, then I'm gonna close it out. And this is the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 6, and it reads, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not. In Matthew 24 and 7, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places, right? Because we're seeing the rise and increase around the world, not just one place. around the world, we're seeing the nations going against one another. This different group going against another group, a cross-border conflict, a racial issue of two different races, of two different nations, a matter of people, and that's what we're seeing. Another nation going against another nation, a different kingdom going against another different kingdom. And we're seeing the increase of famines around the world, and we're seeing a uptick in increases in pestilence with the weather conditions, pestilence and the health concern issues in that category as well too. As I mentioned before previously in my previous video that I just did not too long ago, and the earthquakes in diverse places. I just did a video on that as well too, in regarding the earthquakes in diverse places definitely as well too. And so with that, I hope this lesson was edifying. And with that, I would like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Akarkadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, preaching His word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim, scattered to the four corners of the globe, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim, that be like unto the speckled bird, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And until next time, I will say shalom and a ball.